And here we are, chat, at the hour of the Americans. It's 3 a.m. here. Woke up a little bit earlier, but I understand this is when the Americans are most active. So it's a great opportunity to stream for them. Is Pippa streaming tonight? Because I know there's some overlap between her audience and mine. So maybe she took the day off because I think she's taking 2 days off a week. She actually has a normal human schedule, unlike me. But anyway, right? So hello, fellow bigots. How's it go? I will shave. Yes, I actually do need to shave. There's many things that I need to do. It's just that we're a little bit hectic in my life right now. I'm dealing with the inheritance. A lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff, and on top of that, my sleeping schedule is out of whack. So I've been having a few hectic days, but I'll try to get back in shape, and I will shave. But anyway, right, I owe you extra 10 minutes. I will provide, of course. So listen to this, right? This gentleman from Poland apparently was sold a gun with the serial number etched off. What do you do? This is a question from Quora Digest. A gentleman from Poland received a gun with the serial number etched off. You're kind of fucked, aren't you? If that happens, what do you do? Because you can't throw it away, right? If you throw it away and someone finds your fingerprints on it, or someone sees that you threw it away. Okay, so the first question is why would a gun have the serial number etched off? Why would that happen? The only reason is that a crime was committed, right? I mean, no, unless you're a big troll and you just want to remove the serial number to scare someone, but that's a crime in and of itself. So why would someone risk going to jail just for a little bit of trolling? So no, someone actually did the crime, right? So you buy the gun. What do you do? What do you do? There's not much you can do. If you go to the cops, you got a 50-50 chance that they believe you, but even then, it's a ghost gun. It's a ghost gun. It's Casper's gun. I don't know. He didn't say. It's on Quora Digest. It may actually happen that he may have been the person committing the crime, and now he's how do you get rid of the gun or something, you know? I don't know. It's on the internet. May not even have happened at all. Maybe none of this has happened. But I asked myself, what would I do in that situation? And the answer is, you're kind of fucked, right? Just put it in the attic and hopefully no one finds it. Because even then, let's say you buy it from a pound house or something like that, and then the police goes to the shop owner and is okay, well, what happened to that gun? And he's well, I sold it. To whom? And they give the name, and then the cops come to your house and you're well, where's the gun? And you're well, I threw it away. You're impeding a police investigation. Ghost guns do not have serial numbers, and you cannot sell self-made guns. Yes, but this is Poland, so I do not know their legislation. Number one. Number two, the person didn't know. So, they got the gun, went home, and when they looked at it, it's oh, where's the serial number? Holy shit. Right? What do you do in that situation? I guess, the best thing to do would be to go back to the store owner and, just talk to them about it. Because, the store owner has an easier chance explaining to the cops. Because, you're a business, and it's more believable that you're trading with a lot of things. Eventually, this gun came into your hands, and you weren't careful enough, and you want to cooperate with the cops so that they find who did it. Right? That's a lot more believable. But if you're just going to be, a random guy, and yeah, sure, I bought it, and, look, it's a little bit more difficult to explain. Anyway, yeah, that is Poland's problem. Well, it's not even Poland's problem, it's that guy's problem. So, Elon Musk apparently gave the position of CEO for Twitter to a person that's very connected to the World Economic Forum. And she's a lady, very progressive individual, was all about the mandates, the masks, the whole shebang. Apparently, she's a social justice activist. A lot of people are bewildered by Elon Musk's decision. I'm not. I think it's the best business decision he could have made, because he wants the advertisers back, right? So, as I mentioned before, the CEO position is a PR stunt. Like, he still owns the company. That's the key word, owning the company, right? Like, he can literally tell the CEO what to do and what not to do. So this is a PR move, pretty much. Now, if I start seeing things change on Twitter, then I'll panic. But like right now, I don't see any negative change. Take into account that I compare Twitter with Parag Newell, right? Like, he was the Twitter CEO, and he was actually, like, the first thing that he did, he wanted to ban pictures of Antifa, right? So, like, if you lived in a neighborhood and a couple of Antifa goons would come up and, destroy your shops and destroy your cars and stuff, you weren't allowed to share pictures of them on Twitter anymore, right? So, my comparison with Elon Musk's Twitter, and this is something that I said since the beginning, like the very first day that it was announced that Elon buys Twitter, I said, like, there's two possibilities, right? Number one, the best case scenario, we get free speech. So you get like changes that actually make Twitter better. Number two scenario, which is the worst possible imaginable scenario, things stay the same. Right? So I don't think like I do not think it's going to be as bad as when Vijaya was involved at Twitter, right? I think it's going to be how Twitter was in 2018. That's my take. That's my analysis. I don't think like it's ever going to be like it was in 2016, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was in 2020. So you're going to get still the same Twitter, but leftists are upset, and now apparently right wingers are upset as well. So the thing is, like, Elon was never a conservative, right? Like, I mean, sure, like he is involved in the culture war, and because the mainstream culture is so far to the left, Elon looks like he's a right winger. But like, if you listen to some of his policies, Elon is a centrist, and by centrist I don't mean like he doesn't have a political position. I mean that he has certain ideas and things that he takes from the left, and he has certain ideas and things that he takes from the right. Like, his ideology is a mismatch of policies from the left and the right. Obviously, he's probably for less taxation. Obviously, he's probably for less government regulation. But on issues like environmentalism, censorship of AI, like, he's on board with the left. He's more to the right than most leftists, though, and that's why he's a problem. Number 3, we get World Economic Forum propaganda. That would be actually good, because every single time the World Economic Forum puts something up on their Twitter profile, it's universally hated. Like, some of the biggest number of dislikes are on World Economic Forum videos. Many times they had to even take down videos because they were ashamed of them. So if you were to get like World Economic Forum propaganda on Twitter, that would mean that the entire world would be exposed to World Economic Forum. Because most people don't even know what that is. Like, I was talking with my dad, and he's like, oh, so it's like this conspiracy theory. I'm like, Dad, what conspiracy theory? It's on their website. Like, you can literally access it. It's a public website with public knowledge, public access. Like, you can literally look this up. Okay, like, a conspiracy requires a shadowy cabal. There's no shadow. There's lights, Dad. There's lights everywhere. They have a studio. They have an expert that literally just does the lighting for their studio. And they are outright saying what they want to accomplish. Like, most people do not believe that 2030 is going to be a place where you won't have gas-powered cars. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to or not, but, like, they want to. Like, they want that. Like, they are actively expressing it. Like, they are doing their best in order to let you know that this is what they are trying to accomplish. Reminds me like the Islamic situation of 2016, where you had like a lot of leftists, like trying to speak for the radical Muslims, and they were like, okay, well, Islam is actually a peaceful religion, and actually Islam is okay with gay people and the LGBT and all of that, like Islam is on board. And then you had like this like radical Islamic fundamentalist that was a blogger or whatever. And you could see that he was frustrated out of his mind because like he just can't get into the head of the infidel what he stands for. And he was like, no, like listen. It was absolutely hilarious. They could even make it so CBDC will have different prices for individual based on their location. So yeah, so the central bank digital currency, which is being implemented, I think they're trying to have it in July. The amount of control that they're trying, I don't even know if it can be accomplished at this scale, because like, but like, I'm pretty sure they will manage to eventually. They're trying so that if you commit a traffic violation, like let's say you drive over a red light, immediately there's a camera, it snaps a picture, and it takes money away from your wallet, without you having to fill up any paperwork, without you having to do anything. Like immediately, boop, you got the traffic violation. When you have to pay your taxes, boop, the money is subtracted. Okay. The downside is if you don't use the money. So, for example, because this is the Chinese model that they're doing, right? Like all of this is modeled after the digital one. If you do not use your money on time, so let's say you have your salary for this month and you don't use it for 2 months, you're trying to hoard the wealth. If you're trying to hoard the wealth, they will just increase your taxes or eventually just take the money away. Now, they justify that this is for the people who get welfare, right? Because like initially the CBDC will be as a universal basic income thing. And they justify that it wouldn't be normal. Like if you're a person on welfare, and I kind of agree with that, but like the system is the problem, right? The system of control. Because like their ideology behind it is not that evil. But what they're saying is like, okay, so we're giving welfare to people. If you're a person that can actually accumulate the welfare, so you're like hoarding the welfare, then you don't really need welfare. Right? Like that's their argument. I kind of agree with it. But the other things that are coming with the CBDC is what I don't agree. And then it's taxable based on carbon, right? So like you may have like a certain limit of carbon that you're allowed to consume per month. And let's say you want to buy another steak. Well, if you want to buy another steak over the amount of carbon that you have, now you have to pay more for it. Right? So that's what the carbon credits are about. Or it can just give you an error. Like it can just say, well, you overextended your day, which is basically like a ration from communism, right? It's like you extended your daily rationing, so you're not allowed to buy more. Discouraging savings, yes. Like it's to like think about what savings are, right? Like savings is a way for you to be independent and not have to rely on the government. Like for example, you can save money so that you can buy an apartment that you rent, and then you have a pension when you're old. A lot of people do this in Europe, right? It's not as practical in California because apartments cost too much. But there's a lot of Europeans that do it. Like they will save money, and then they will buy an apartment and they will rent it up, and that's their pension for when they're old, right? Like that's their money that they use. Now, if you can't save money, you're never going to buy that apartment, right? So now you're dependent on the government to give you handouts. If you want to take your kid to college, you need to have a savings account. The good news, though, is that in communism, people found ways around this. So even if you can't take like the actual cash, right? You can't take like the physical money out of the CBDC because that like it's digital currency, right? Like you're not going to have like an ATM so you can take out the cash. Even if you can't do that, then you can still buy stuff that you can sell later on. So in communism, it was the coffee, the whiskey, and the cigarettes. But I'm generally thinking like gold coins can become a new commodity or something like that. Like people can find something of value that can be produced. Maybe not gold coins, but like silver coins, platinum coins, like shit like that. And then they will like try to transport the CBDC into that. And then when they and use that as savings. Yeah, like the idea you will own nothing and be happy. Like they tried that with communism. They really did. Like they did their best, and it just doesn't work because wherever there's a demand, whatever there's like a huge demand, people will find ways in order to achieve their goals, right? So like if people just want to trade and have savings and stuff, then they will try their best in order to find alternatives. I do not believe in cryptocurrency simply because that can be cracked down and controlled, right? Like the idea that oh well, cryptocurrency is flawless. I don't think so. You know, like the government can literally, in some cases, and they're trying this in America, they can send you to prison for using a VPN or some shit. You know, so um, no one can take away gold coins from your house. I mean, if it gets to the level, actually, let me rephrase. If it gets to the level where they can take gold coins away from your house, then at that point, they can also take away crypto, right? Like, if you have a government that can literally break into your home to take away your gold coins, then at that point, it's just like it's done. You know, tyranny. Like, there's nothing more you can do. Um, Also, take into account like the big problem with crypto, and this is something that most people don't understand because they keep asking like content creators like why don't you have crypto? Because people don't use crypto. Patreon actually did a poll, and it asked not the content creators, it asked the people donating money to the content creators like, do you want crypto? And overwhelmingly like 70% said no. So like people don't use it, and one of the main reasons that you can't use crypto is due to volatility. Like most people who want to have a business, they need to be able to predict things at least, if not 4 years in advance, at least like 1 year or 2 years in advance, right? So you can have a business strategy. But when the coin fluctuates incredibly hard, like 1 month it can even be like 25% more than the previous month, right? And the next month it can plummet and stuff. How can you pay people wages based on that? Like how can you do business and transactions? Like the difference between crypto and the dollar is that the dollar is always at least in the same ratio. Like it's kind of fixed, you know, like over the course of time it fluctuates, but like for 1 year, like you know the value of a dollar. um and while gold fluctuates too, it's not to that degree, right? Like every currency will fluctuate, but it's not going to fluctuate to the insane amount that you see with Bitcoin and other cryptos. um yeah, but like again, like don't tell me that like a little movement of the needle is compared to the huge fluctuations that you see with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin went, if I'm not mistaken, like from what was like in the beginning, hundreds of dollars. It went all the way to 60,000 at one point, or 30,000. Like that, like the dollar doesn't fluctuate like that. You know, gold doesn't fluctuate like that. Like there were you don't have gold. Like please show me if I'm wrong, but you don't have gold like fluctuate with like 20% between one day and another, or 1 week and another. The difference between gold and Bitcoin is that gold is actually useful. The difference between gold and Bitcoin is that throughout the entire human history, like since Adam and Eve all the way up until now, it had value. Like not once did gold lose value, right? But if you have a major power outage, like let's say electricity is down and you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have internet, you don't have anything, how do you get your crypto? Like in the case of Ukraine, right? There's a war with Russia, and they launch some rockets and they take down the electricity grid. How do you access your crypto wallet? How do you do transactions? Um, all resources are useful. Yeah, but like some resources are more useful than the other. The thing that scares me about Bitcoin, I will tell you the actual thing, is that there's an ideology behind it, right? Like it is the idea that is the Messiah that will save us from the CBDC, right? Like Jesus Christ is saying that unless people adopt Bitcoin, the world is ending. And I don't like that. Like I can't think throughout the history of mankind when you had like an economic thing that was backed by an ideology and it was actually successful, right? Like gold doesn't have an ideology. There's no one telling you, oh, we need to buy gold or else CBDC will, right? Like that's what gives me the heebie-jeebies. That's what I don't like. The whole ideology and the people pushing it, like They were pushing the pyramid schemes back in the day with like gold coffee and other nonsense. You know, you need to buy gold coffee because you're going to make a lot of money in it. Okay. No one is pushing gold. No one is pushing silver. No one is like, and I haven't heard the argument on why it's bad. Like I need someone to come up and say, okay, gold is bad because, and this is why I should buy Bitcoin. I haven't heard the argument. Maybe one day I'll hear it. I don't know. Before electronics, gold had no practical value. Are you kidding me? Like, are you really? I mean, didn't the Europeans actually invaded the Aztecs specifically because of the gold? It had value. Like, from what I understand, it doesn't rust, right? Like, am I incorrect with this? Like, it doesn't rust. So if you had like a gold armor or something like that, it was easier to maintain. It had the value in currency. I mean, the very fact that you have a metal which is rare and can be used for stuff, it means it can be used as currency. Yeah, I don't know. Shiny emotional value is not a practical one. Well, you know, you then talk about like what is value, and I guess like value is what people put value on. Like if something is desirable by a huge number of people, then inherently it has value. It's like the Discord apple, right? Like the came from the goddess, and she throws an apple on the table, and everyone wants it. And all of a sudden, it has value. Anyway, using gold as money is precisely an ideology like you complain about. No, because you can melt the gold, and you can turn it into something that doesn't rust. I mean, back in the old day, from what I understand, someone actually did the, what was it? A historical conversion, I guess, to find out how much is a suit of armor. And apparently, the suit of armor of a medieval person would be around $500,000, right? So take that into account that now you got like this very expensive thing that very few people in the world could afford, and you need to constantly maintain it. Like, you need to constantly polish and do the thing so that it doesn't rust. Well, now if you have a gold armor, then it doesn't rust. Why do you need something that doesn't, to save money and time? And to make sure that it never gets damaged? And also, like, using gold as money is not necessarily an ideology. Like, that's not what I mean. I'm not saying that when you use gold, like, the reason people use gold as money is that something had to be used, right? Like it's not, if it wasn't gold, like if gold didn't exist on Earth, it would have been something else. Like it's to simplify trade, basically, right? What I mean by an ideology is that if someone came up and said, unless we use gold, something really bad will happen, right? Like that's not how it happened. And it wasn't top down. It was like simply grassroots. Like, people just started using it because it was, I guess, out of commodity. But anyway, like, I'm not telling you not to use Bitcoin, EBN. Like, if you want to use Bitcoin, use Bitcoin. I still don't understand. Like, please explain to me the following question. If I buy land, right? If I buy land in a region that I know it's going to be expanded on. So like right now, let's say I buy land on a place that's a hill, and there's not many things around it, right? So the land has a price. But I know that in 10 or 20 years, that land is going to be developed, and there's going to be a lot of rich people moving there. Eh? And I still have the deed to the land, and that's my savings. Why is that a bad thing? Do I really need to buy Bitcoin, or is my deal acceptable to you? Is that so buying like property, land, you know, houses, stuff like that, is that a good thing, Gibeon? Is that okay? Or should I really just sell the land and buy Bitcoin? But anyway, right. Booze will always be valuable, yeah, I guess. But like, imagine how much booze you would need to stock in order to actually have some savings. Like, if you want to have savings until you retire, how much booze do you need to stock, and how fast can you sell it? It's a false dichotomy? No, it's not a false dichotomy. It does have to be either or. Like, why not? If I have more money, I buy more land. I don't want to diversify. No, like, It's simple. If I have more money, I buy more land. I'm not going to buy more Bitcoin. Anything that goes up in value works as an investment. One of those things is in Bitcoin. Yeah, but like, what happens if Bitcoin goes down in value? Like if the government cracks up on it, let's say, right? And all of a sudden it goes down in value. What do you do then? What if people just stop buying it after a while? What if no one wants to buy it from you? Like the market gets super saturated and people like me exist that want to buy land. What do you do? See, the thing is, like, if I buy land, regardless if electricity goes down, regardless of if there's inflation, nothing that happens, because in the entire history of mankind, land had value. So like, I actually have something physical and tangible. But like, okay, you know, if you disagree, you disagree. I'm not going to argue with this. I had this conversation many times, and it's fine. Like, regardless of where you want to put your savings, I just tell you what I'm putting mine, and people get upset when I tell them where I put my savings, and I'm like, why though? Because it's my savings. The only reason you should be upset about my savings is if you want to vouch for them, right? So if I lose my saving, you have to pay from your pocket, and then I would understand. Anyway, let's talk about the homeless man. I don't even know if I can talk about this on my main. I'm pretty sure I should be able to, but like YouTube's TOS when it comes to monetization are so strict that sorry, not so strict. They're so large that and over encompassing that probably you aren't allowed to talk about it. As a landowner, I'm way better off than anyone who owns one Bitcoin. Peter shit, the Super USA gold bug. I do not know the lore, unfortunately, of the USA gold bug. Land is a good investment until the government says they want it. Oh my fucking god. Well, if we reach at the point where the government is like literally willing to take land away from people at gunpoint, I'm pretty sure that when you reach that level, they're also going to crack down hard on Bitcoin as well. I mean, if we're literally talking about like a government that can just take away land from people, which is a possibility, but I don't think in Romania it's very probable. You know, maybe in other parts of the world. Like, we already had our dose of communism. We're vaccinated for it for at least 100 years. But, like, eventually, yeah, sure. The government can take away your land if it wants to. But if you reach that level, then you're pretty much screwed. There is land and property tax. Yeah, but, like, in Romania, property tax is, like, I don't know, like 0.5% or some shit. Depending on the type of land you had. So, did you see Hassan Piker get trolled by the Bill Clinton kid? Yes, I did. Why the fuck is Hassan Piker at the Writer Guild protest is what I don't understand. Like, Hassan Piker, from what I know, he encourages piracy, right? Like, there was a controversy because of that, saying that he doesn't mind piracy and some shit. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't mind piracy, Hassan Piker, why do you go and you support the writers? And I'm pretty sure, like, he would have a justification for it. Like, he would probably say something like, well, you know, I'm protesting the big studios, the writer. Yeah, sure. Can't flee the country with your land? Dude, like, fleeing the country, is that something that you do from one day to another? Like, if there is an event that requires you to flee the country and you have, like, at least the minimum attention at what's going on television, you would probably know about it, like, 1 year in advance. And even if you fled the country, at the end of the day, you don't take the land, you take the bill to the land, you take the deed. And then you can give the deed to the land to someone in the country to sell it for you, and you give them a percentage. Jesus fucking Christ, oh my god. Such difficulties in figuring out these simple solutions. Fled the country. Oh, God. Fled the country and I couldn't take my shit. Okay. Police in New York City charged a homeless man with multiple hate crimes for defecating on a restaurant LGBT's flag, then using another pride flag to wipe himself. So Fred Innocent, this is actually his name. I love it. You got the perfect name for this situation. Fred Innocent is accused of taking not one but two flags off a table at Bueco's dining shed, and the incident was caught on cameras. This was a total hate crime, says the restaurant owner. And he came in within 15 minutes of us opening up the restaurant. He could have gone to Popeyes or McDonald's around the corner. He could have used napkins. I love the fact that the problem isn't that he defecated in the street. The problem is that he didn't go to McDonald's and use the napkins. I mean, he used the holy symbol, right? My bad. Yeah. So the left is all about victimless crimes and stuff, you know, as people in the chat are pointing it out. But I'll tell you something more interesting and more fascinating about this. And I want you to think about it as well. When you have actual violent crime, like you have muggings, you have stabbings, you have looting, like all of these things happened recently. And everything that the media said is like, well, it's a situation of circumstance, right? That's what the media says. It's like, we shouldn't blame the criminals because of poverty. That's what I read. It's poverty has driven these people to commit the crimes. And I think like the mayor of Chicago said something like that. I have seen it in the paper, right? Elon Musk recently posted that interesting poll between crime statistics, and you had like social justice activists explaining to Elon Musk, look, it's black people commit crime because of poverty, white people commit crime because of racism. Know the difference. Okay. So when you have a homeless person committing a crime, all of a sudden it's ideological. And all of a sudden, it's not society that pushed him to become poor. Which in this situation, you can make the argument, like if he had a home, he would have shot it in home, right? Like he wouldn't have done it to a restaurant. Now, the arrest, right, is for defecating in a public space, which, you know, like if you're a restaurant owner, obviously, you lose business if someone produces the deuce in front of your restaurant. So it's not something that's acceptable. But the hate crime thing is going to make it so that he stays more in prison, right? It's all about something being a threat to the idea or the state. Crime happens, but thought crime. It reminds me of, I keep making this parallel with socialism in my country, but it's true. Like, we actually did have two criminal codes. There was, like, the normal criminal code, which dealt with mugging, rape, murder, like the things that we... That one actually didn't even get that much changed after communism. Like, that one pretty much stayed the same. But we have the ideological crime, right? So crime against ideology. Many countries called it differently, like anti-revolutionary behavior or something like that. And those were the crimes that were persecuted the most. Like you could, in some cases, kill someone and get far less sentence than if you committed an ideological crime. Owner must call it a hate crime or face the mob. I don't think that's the case. Like, the owner could just shut the fuck up. The owner could be like, yeah, he used some flags and, it's not okay. Or actually, the owner can just go, no comment. But obviously, the owner, is ideologically possessed. Like, if he has these types of flags and, at every table and stuff like that. Like, so, it's interesting that the actual marginalized people of society, which are homeless people, right? And homeless people and LGBT people can intersect. I have been told about this every single time I care about the homeless people. I'm being told by a progressive, it's like, hey, like, like gay people can be homeless too. And I'm like, yeah, no, they can. Like, there is an overlap. But I care more about homeless people. And it's not like... The situation of being homeless requires some level of compassion. And I'll tell you why. Because it can happen to everyone. Right? Like me, you, any person, like tomorrow your house can catch fire, right? Like it's something that can potentially happen to people. So it would be nice if society fixes the homeless problem. Now when I say fixes the homeless problem, I mean it's a difficult issue to solve, because even if you were to have housings, because this is what a lot of leftists don't understand. Like if you have houses, for example, and you take a homeless person and you give him a house, like you put him in a one-room apartment, he's got access to water, he's got access to all the facilities, and it's his house. That's not going to solve the homeless problem, because that person still has to pay rent, still has to pay the utility, right? He still has to pay for electricity, he still has to pay for water, he still has to maintain the apartment. So he's going to end up homeless again. You can't solve this issue by throwing money at it. It's a lot more difficult. I don't know the solution, but I think like the solution to stop crime would definitely be number one. Stop drugs. Like the thing with drugs is what keeps homeless people homeless. Like think about it. Let's say you lost your job, and you lose your house, you're on the streets. You're desperate, right? Now you have absolutely nothing to do. Like all day, there's nothing to do. On top of that, you're very depressed. You're sick with life. Like you're homeless. Like it's devastating. So a lot of people start drinking. A lot of people start doing drugs. Like it's understandable. I'm not going to pretend that it's unreasonable. But once you do that, it's very difficult to get out of the homeless situation. It's very difficult to start finding a job, right? Like what job interview are you going to go to where you're a junkie and like people can tell, right? So like once you start doing these things, like all the money you make are going to go for booze and that. So like you're not even going to be able to afford a motel or something. So it is a difficult thing. And the solution to it is probably like the main solution would definitely be number one, to crack down on drug crime, because you got to look at California. Yeah, they have a higher homeless population than most other places in the world. Like it's normal for countries to have homeless, right? Like every single country around the world has homeless people. Like that's not something that's unreasonable. But when you reach a certain number, it has to raise questions. It's like, okay, this is not normal. Tentacle Easter egg? Why, thank you, Bob Cohen. I don't know if I have like a tentacle Easter egg. I should put it on my Twitter. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. $50. Wow. It sounds very easy. Yeah, it is, but it doesn't really. It's such a cope to think that homelessness has nothing to do with the price of housing. Of course it does. Like, homelessness is multifaceted. There isn't like one single thing. You can't say, okay, well, if we fix housing, let me give you an example. I gave this example on my stream before, and it's why I say that some people like being poor. Unironically, they do. There was also that video with that homeless Diogenes, which is like a white liberal comes to him and is like, well, why don't you get a home? And it's like, I don't want a home. I like it here. There's fresh air. It's my country. I can do whatever. Right? Like there are literally people like that. But during the pandemic, and I said this story like 4 times. Sorry if I'm boring some people, but there's a new individual here and I want to lecture him a little bit. During the pandemic, this guy, right, during the lockdown, is on a horse, and he stands out because everyone is out indoors and this guy is out on a horse. So the police stop him. Like, you're not allowed to bring a horse in town anyway. The police stop him and they find out that his wife was pregnant and was about to give birth, and he wants to go see that, right? So the cops are touched by this gentleman and they escort him to the hospital with the cop car, and it becomes like a national thing. Like, everyone knows about this guy. And they find out that he lives in a very dilapidated place. Like, he doesn't even have a proper roof over his head. He's living in abject poverty with his wife. So everyone starts donating. Everyone pitches in. And they buy him, like, this really nice apartment. A 2-room apartment in the middle of the city. And he's got access to all the facilities now. And he's actually being offered jobs. Like, there's this K1 fighter, Moroshan. And he offers him a job at his place, right? Like he literally has Like, very rarely do people get their life being turned around purely based on luck. But like, this guy had more luck than winning the lottery, right? Like, everyone knows him, everyone is like on the paper, and everyone is like sympathetic to him. Like, a lot of people offer jobs. He actually takes one. Okay, in 3 months, oh, he even got like an expensive car. In 3 months, he kept the car, sold the house, is living back in his place that doesn't have a roof over his head. And he's back in poverty. And he's drinking. Didn't go to the job that he was offered. Never attended. Right? What do you do with these types of individuals? Because they exist. You know, like obviously there are some other people, I'm pretty sure, that are in also a really bad situation. And if you were to give them the same opportunities that this guy was given, like literally handed to him by society, they would turn their life around. But there are also many other people that when opportunity comes knocking, they flat out refuse. How, like you can't it's kind of like, look, it's kind of like when you talk with a Westerner and they will tell you that democracy is good and freedom is amazing and liberty is great. But then you go to the Middle East, right? And you bring democracy to a Middle Eastern nation and they vote for Sharia law the next day. Like, what do you do in that situation, right? Like, do you force your values on them? Like, if someone literally wants to live like that, like someone literally wants to live in poverty, what do you do? Homeless is a way of life. Let me give you another example. My well, actually, I'm not going to. Let's say some relatives of mine. I'll put it like that. Now they're at the countryside, right? And they're getting old, as in retirement old. You know, like 65. And they have to work really hard at the countryside. Like they plow the land manually. Like they don't use technology. They plow the land manually. They have a vineyard. They have to take care of that, and you know they don't make money at all almost from that. But it's something that they always did. You know, their house is still without connection to hot water. They're using wood in order to warm the house and stuff. So me and my wife, you know, we offered. It's like, hey, like, why don't you come live in the city? Because we can find some arrangements. Like, we can discuss and find a solution so that you know you can have like a nice. They don't wanna. Like, they don't want to, right? And even if they were to come to the city, their lifestyle would not change. They would still like try to find something. I think it's due to the way of life. Like, once you're set in a way of life, you don't really want to change it. It's very difficult. So it is what it is. But my point is, you can't force people to be wealthy. You can't force people to live differently. There are literal homeless people that like being homeless. I know this sounds batshit crazy, but if you talk with homeless people, you will find out that they do exist, right? And it's only because like we can't imagine the situation. There's also people who like being in jail. Like, there are individuals that I have known of when I was at law school. Like, the stories went on. They enjoy being in prison. So they get out of prison, they commit another crime, so they go back to prison. You know, like, it is what it is. This happened to my uncle when he couldn't work the farm anymore. He just got depressed. And his health took a nosedive. Yes, it does happen. I have seen it. It's just the way of life, you know. And they're the same individuals. Like, if you give them money, like my grandmother, right? So my grandmother, like, she had a very hard life, and if I were to give her money, like I would give her here like $100. That's a lot in Romania, right? It's like, here's $100. She would not use them. She would save them. Like, she would put them under the mattress, as it's called. She refused to use the money, and it's you know what can you do? Like, how can you? If I were to buy her like an expensive electric appliance, she would not use it. Like, it just doesn't feel right, you know. Like, so when that is the mentality, there's nothing you can do, and this is the reason why you can't really fix the homeless problem by throwing money at it and being like, okay, well, I'm just going to pump money and eventually people will get a house. Because it sounds logical, doesn't it? It sounds very fucking logical. It's like, okay, well, they don't have a house, so if I give them a house, they will have a house. But yeah, you know, like, and I think like I know why the prices for housing creates homeless people, because that's true. Like, but think about it this way, right? Like you have a functioning member of society, right? And the housing prices go up, and he can't afford rent, so now he is homeless. Okay, but now he uses drugs while on the street, right? Like he's depressed, he starts drinking, uses drugs, completely changes the person. I think we can all agree that drugs change people, right? So now you have a junkie. He wouldn't have done this if he had a home, right? But because the prices went up, he ended up on the street. So if you give that person a house now, do you think he's going to be able to get a job and turn his life around? Like for some people maybe, but like the overwhelming amount of cases, no, because it's so difficult to give up to give up these habits. I can barely give up Pepsi. I don't even know how it would be like to give like some actual hardcore drugs. My cousin spent a few weeks at a Christian home shelter. He said it wasn't bad, but they had strict rules, and most people couldn't stop drug and alcohol abuse for shelter. So there's like several reasons why people don't want to go to a shelter. Because I also wondered, like, why is that a problem? So the first issue is, yes, like they have rules, and you can't do alcohol, and you can't smoke, and you can't do drugs. So like a lot of people have a hard time coping with that. But the second one, and this is what I heard, at least the shelters in Romania, like maybe in the United States is different. A lot of diseases happen at the shelter because like if a person, let's say, is sick, right? And he starts coughing and sneezing and wheezing. Like we're talking about a place where people are densely packed. So you can get sick very easy. Parasites are a thing, right? So bed bugs, lice, all sorts of other, you know, like things. Because like you have people that sleep on the streets, right? So they go into these shelters and you have the problem. People stealing shoes. That's another issue, right? So this is why many homeless people do not like going to a homeless shelter. I actually did a lot of research on this shit, believe it or not. Feed the homeless to the hungry. Oh, I see. Does he acknowledge the super chats at all? Didn't I acknowledge them? I thought I did. So I acknowledged Bob Cohen. I talked about M-Bag. Owner must call it a hate crime or fess the mug. It's all about something being a threat to the idea of the state. And then I talked about Peter shit doing the Super USA. But I acknowledge all the super chats. Why are you saying? Did I miss one? I don't think I missed one. Yeah, Wayne, if you gave me a super chat, I didn't get one from you. Shelter here is often full, and I believe I have an odd even day admission policy. I guess it depends on how many homeless people you have, right? Because like at one point, if you have too many, then maybe one shelter isn't enough, and it's going to get filled. But anyway, my point with this video is that the people that society cares about the most has been completely switched upside down. Like when I was a kid, and even now, people would talk about the homeless and the orphans, and now everyone is talking about the LGBTs. And it shows that when you have a homeless person, which is like, when it comes to oppression, it should be literally at the bottom of the totem pole, right? What's more oppressed than a homeless person? I guess like a person that's convicted of a sex crime in prison, like that's the only person more oppressed than a homeless one, and that's understandable. But when it comes like the oppression Olympics, like the homeless people should definitely be the most oppressed and marginalized. Like when is the last time you heard a homeless person speak at the City Hall event or at MSNBC or Fox News, right? And it shows that no, like they are bigots, they are racist. There's no understanding when they commit a crime. And meanwhile, when you actually have crime, like we saw this couple of weeks, oh, it's because they didn't know any better. Oh, it's because they didn't understand. Oh, it's because society has failed them. Immigrants get priority over the homeless when it comes to housing. That's really upsetting to hear, to be honest. It is progressive and forward-thinking, Tipsfin. But anyway, right? So I did read the super chats. I do thank you for them, and I'm going to go to bed now because despite the fact that I just woke up, it seems that I can try and catch a few more Z's. Um, Sorry for the weird hour stream, but I'll try to get back to my regular schedule after this. And tomorrow I'm going to be on the Archcast, so hopefully I'll see you guys there.